Everyone, welcome to the fourth webinar of the eight-part webinar series to focus on the lesser-known destinations, culture, and attractions of Northeast India under the Dekho Apna Desh campaign of Ministry of Tourism, Government of India. The topic for today's webinar is Northeast India, a hotspot for wildlife tourism. We have with us the Regional Director of India Tourism Northeast, Shri S.S. Dev Varman, and other officials of the India Tourism Guwahati office. Now I request Regional Director, India Tourism Northeast, Mr. Dev Varman, to please give the opening remarks for today's session.
So you need to unmute yourself.
Still not habituated. We have not developed our habit.
Yes, we can hear you now, sir. Please go ahead.
So, thank you, Madhumita, and your organizations for organizing such a, hot topics, because Northeast is having wide range of wildlife varieties which are not available other part of the world. So this is unique and special, no doubt about it. And post-COVID-19 scenario, as I have been keep on saying to everybody, that Northeast is having tremendous potentials for that kind of tourism, wildlife tourism. So I don't want to elaborate much because there are other resource persons who will be telling, narrating, and elaborating and explaining the things at large. Just as an introducer, I'm just telling in a nutshell about the tourism potential, wildlife tourism potentials in Northeast. So I don't want to elaborate much because there are other resource persons who will be telling, narrating, and elaborating and explaining the things. Something is going wrong.
No, it's fine, sir. Someone's maybe phone was ringing.
About the wildlife tourism potential. Should I continue?
Yes, sir. Please continue.
So if you speak about wildlife, and especially rich wildlife in terms of both fauna and flora, you will love to pronounce Northeast as the most ideal place in India for it is filled with a beautiful wildlife sanctuaries and national parks. In all the seven sisters plus one brother, that is Sikkim, in Northeast, you love to know that there are a total of 30 national parks, bird sanctuaries, and also wildlife sanctuaries in Northeast. So, explore the national parks in Northeast. You will love to be introduced to the several wildlife reserve like Kaziranga National Park in Assam, which is the home to the one-horned rhino, followed by the Manas National Park, which is also one of the natural World Heritage Site, a Project Tiger Reserve, an elephant reserve, and a biosphere reserve in Assam. Namiri is another national park reserved to house elephant and other animals including tigers, leopards, gaurs, wild pigs, sunbirds, etc. Namdapha National Park has both fauna and flora filled with the rarest bird species, migrating from several places other than a snow leopard, clouded leopard, and tiger. Dibru Saikhowa National Park is a protected bird area, followed by the Maraf Longri National Park, which has a variety of elephants, barking deers, porcupines, and much more that can be spotted, followed by Orang National Park, also known as a mini Kaziranga. that is the home to the wildlife buffs and also Royal Bengal tiger, sambar and hog deer, barking deer, elephant, civet cat, etc. Along with the Nokrek National Park, which is adjacent to the National Citrus Gene Sanctuary cum Biosphere. And in Tripura, Sipahijola, you will find Chashma Bandar, which is in English being called as a spectacle monkey. Nowhere in the world will have that particular species. Then in Nagaland is another interesting place for wildlife tourism lovers. In Nagaland, there is one village. It's being called Pungti. Over there, a certain rare species of falcon, they migrate from Siberia. Their final destination is in South Africa. So on the way, for few months, they come to Pungti village of Nagaland. So what I want to say is that for wildlife tourism lovers, Northeast is actually kind of a treasure trove. So our role will be to promote that treasure trove to the world so that the people who loves flora and fauna, who loves wildlife tourism, they should come in a much more bigger number. And as I keep on saying, everywhere in every platform, post-COVID-19 scenario will be the ideal for promoting Northeast as an wildlife tourism, because people are stressed, people are tense. I mean, how long one can stay within the four walls of the house, and people become now claustrophobic. So instead of going to some popular destinations, and that may not be possible to enjoy the popular destinations, tourist destinations for the coming 1 or 2 years due to a number of reasons, you know, I mean, post-COVID situation, once again, one will have to maintain the social distance and maintain the serenity, maintain the calm and quietness. So Northeast will be the ideal place to enjoy that kind of tourism. You can enjoy the social distance. At the same time, you can just be in the lap of the nature and enjoy the green scenery, panoramic view of the village. So once again, thank you to all. Despite the busy schedule, all of you have come and joined, and this is due to your intense love for the region. I'm really thankful to all of you. And my just honest request to all of you is that please try to promote the wildlife tourism of Northeast as much as possible. And once again, thank you, Madhuspita and your organizations to organizing such a beautiful topic for today. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your encouraging words. Today we have two speakers with us. We are very fortunate to have two Indian Forest Services officers who will tell us about the different wildlife destinations in Northeast India. First, I request Mr. Tejas Mariswamy, an IFS officer of 2013 batch, to enlighten us about the different wildlife destinations in Northeast India. Mr. Tejas is currently heading the Assam State Zoo in and has previously worked in Kaziranga National Park also. Mr. Tejas?
And Tejas from where?
So I'm from Karnataka, basically, sir.
Oh, very good, very good.
So good afternoon, everyone. I'm Tejas. I'm from Mysore, Karnataka. So basically an engineer by qualification. Loved wildlife, so I came into forest service. And to be frank, I feel literally lucky that I got Assam cadre, because the diversity which Assam brings in when it comes to wildlife is really tremendous. Every time I go to a particular park, it's totally different, and every other park I go, it's not the same as the other park. So there's a real diversity in this. So since it's basically about the tourist perspective, so I'd like to briefly tell about what are the types of tourism, what Assam wildlife, Assam forest, what opportunity it provides. Basically, I would say there are two types of tourism what people can opt for. One is wildlife based, and the other is adventure based. And even in the wildlife based tourism, there are two categories. One is generalistic, where people just want to come for watching a tiger, seeing a tiger or a rhino or an elephant, or just want to come to Kaziranga. Fine, it provides a beautiful opportunity for them, because sighting in Assam forest, especially sighting a rhino in Kaziranga, is just so easy. It's very easy, and people can really sight a big number of them. So generalistic tourism, yes, it provides a huge opportunity. And one important thing since a lot of tourist agents are here, so I would like to tell them about the specialized tourism in Assam, with the opportunity which Assam provides for the specialized tourism. It's huge. One, see, Kaziranga, for example, since I work in Kaziranga, let me start with Kaziranga. Kaziranga, it's known for the big five species: elephant, tiger, rhino, and other things. But then it's also it's also a good park for even for herb, those who are interested in herbs, snakes, and reptiles. It's also a good park for those who are interested in otters. It's a good park for those who are interested in birds. It's a good park for every other microfauna and flora what people might be interested in. In fact, there are a lot of specialized interested groups who want to come for it, and you guys and to the people who are organizing tourism can actually help them. I'm telling to the agents, the travel agents, tourist agents who are there, so they can actually bring them to Kaziranga for this. Plus, there is also a beautiful we'll also tell about Nameri. It gives a specialized option for trek along with hornbill sighting. It's probably one of the best park to sight hornbills in huge numbers. I mean, no other. I don't think so. Anywhere we can get such an opportunity. Even in probably Western Ghats, it might be very difficult. Sighting may not be so easy. But then Nameri is a beautiful place where easily you can get to sight the hornbills. Plus, another important specialized tourism, what people miss is the Jorhat gibbon sanctuary. See, gibbons are in India, there are only two ape species. So one is humans, other is gibbon. So nowhere it is found. It's found only in the Northeast. It's like people obviously will be interested to watch these gibbons. So gibbons sanctuary is the thing is we have to put it forward to the people. If they say that the only other ape which can be seen is probably in Northeast, and one of the easiest place to see them is Jorhat Gibbon Sanctuary. So this is one of the beautiful opportunity Assam provides. Another thing is also Orang and Manas are so easily accessible from airport. So people who have less time, they can come drop into Guwahati. They can immediately go to Orang or Manas. Within one day they can stay there, or they can even come back on the same day. And Orang is no less than Kaziranga, and of course Manas is probably equal to Kaziranga. There are two heritage sites in the world, so it's they're beautiful places. Also, other aspects of tourism when it comes to wildlife is the adventure-based tourism, which I think Assam and other states of Northeast, they are unparalleled. I don't think so. Such wildlife-based adventure tourism is available anywhere. In fact, one best option is trekking in Nameri. It's one should try it. It's really amazing. Also, Dibru-Saikhowa National Park. The Manas, there is a rafting along the central Manas forest region where you're going on a boat, and we can actually see a lot of wildlife there. And in fact, Guwahati city itself also offers a lot of scope for adventure-based activities. There are activities like rock climbing, trekking, camping, even within Guwahati city also. So there are such things which can be explored. And I guess apart from, I guess it is important for us to really advertise and people to. I think there are a lot of interested people in who are there for specialized tourism, and I think Assam probably is the best place for it. So hope this is the start, and then a lot of specialized people who are interested in specialized tourism start to come into Assam. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Tejas. Thank you for the wonderful words spoken. Now I request the other speaker for today, Mr. Akashdeep Barua. Mr. Akashdeep Barua belongs to the 1992 batch of Indian Forest Services. He did his schooling in Don Bosco High School and pre-university from Cotton College, Guwahati. He graduated from Hindu College of Delhi University and later joined the Indian Forest Services in Tamil Nadu. After serving for nearly 20 years in Tamil Nadu, in various positions, he is now on deputation to Assam for the past 4 years. Shri Akashdeep Barua has specialization in the field of wetland management and has done some pioneering works in mangrove management in Muthupet mangroves in Tamil Nadu. He had published a full-length book on Point Calimere Wildlife and Bird Sanctuary in 2006 and has also authored several field books on mangrove management. Shri Barua held the post of Director of Kaziranga National Park during 2018-19. Currently, he is posted as the Chief Conservator of Forests of Lower Assam Zone and is based in Guwahati. Now I request Mr. Barua to please enlighten us about wildlife tourism in Northeast India.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. A very warm welcome to all the participants in today's discussion. My colleague Tejas has already given a very good insight into the opportunities of, wildlife tourism in the state, and very rightly he has pointed out a very significant part of the wildlife tourism. It is specialized wildlife tourism, where species-based or vegetation-based tourism can be thought about. I would like to add the golden langur, which is Manas, and we have golden langur in Kakoljana in Bangladesh district also. Some lesser known destinations, but no doubt they hold a very good potential for attracting tourism. Other than wildlife based, we have the lovely vegetations here in the whole of Northeast. I won't say Assam. The whole of Northeast is very beautiful. We can have not only, location specific tourism, we can also think about just drive based tourism. Just for instance, this drive from Guwahati airport, Guwahati city to Shillong. Itself is so beautiful that people can have a variety experience of the landscape, how the vegetation changes. There are a lot of places to drop in. Northeast is, very beautiful place to try a variety of cuisines. The local, we have a variety of local, brew, and I think we have a lot of food festivals going around in this all in Northeastern states. So I feel that for the visitors to Northeast can also have a very good, opportunity of getting exposed to local culture, the local traditions, and which should go hand in hand with just also with normal sightings of wildlife. The problem of tourism and for tourist operators in Northeast primarily is that we have about 5 to 6 months of rainfall. So even Kaziranga is closed for 5-6 months, and for all of the entire Northeastern states, we have to close down visits to this Northeastern states because of rainfall issue. But we have a potential of promoting, monsoon visit. There are people, parts of the country who has never experienced a monsoon rainfall. They come from dry areas like Gujarat or Maharashtra or Rajasthan. For them, just experiencing the rainfall, the beauty of rainfall, and it itself, I think, has got tremendous potential. If you think about promoting monsoon visit, it's a different kind of experience altogether. It can be a short distance, and it all depends to the innovativeness and the enterprise of the tour operators, how to promote this kind of tourism. Another thing is that what we need to now think is that I was talking to yesterday that in this current post-COVID scenario, where people will take some time to really visit the places to go for a visit, be it wildlife, be it non-wildlife or whatever. People will take some time, need some time, and I will say at least another year or so. Till the time that we have people who are confident enough to travel to various destinations of the country and visit those areas, we can think of, having some of these videos which we call flyby videos. I had this lovely opportunity of seeing one such flyby video when I visited Canada 2 years back, and it is at that time there was no COVID. So it's a 10 minutes, 10 to 15 minutes video where you sit on a 5D theater. We all have gone You must have all been aware of 5D theaters where there are some seats which moves along with the as the picture moves. And I had such a lovely experience of flying over whole of Canada. I just been to Vancouver and one or two places. But in those 10, 15 minutes, I visited Canada. You know, like I was flying over mountains, I was flying over vegetations, forest. Then I come down low. I was at the road level. And it's all drone work. So I think all the tour operators should think of preparing such kind of flyby visitors videos where you can have this kind of theaters. So any visitor coming to say Assam or say to any of the northern states or for the matter to any other part of the country, by experience, and they really know, oh, Kaziranga, you know, and this is what is in, it's in Nagaland, or this is what is in Arunachal. And even for wildlife area specific, you know, people come, they think that they will see rhino, which of course a very guaranteed sighting. There are other animals also, and people come with lot of hope, expectations, they'll see a tiger, which you have to be extremely lucky, and most people go back disappointed. So if we have this kind of videos where before someone actually is going to the field, they have the experience, so even if they don't miss out some animals, they will still go with that feeling that yes, I did not see sambar or I did not see the particular animal, but I had a feeling because, you know, I was there. So maybe I'll just throwing out a new idea, because in the post-COVID, we'll have to go think a little bit on a digital sort of tourism. This is what I just wanted to roughly speak to the audience. And I was director Kaziranga for nearly 1.5 years. And Kaziranga is the, you know, anybody coming Northeast will have this triangle. It's Guwahati, it's Kaziranga, and it's Shillong. So this triangle is the most popular, I would say, tourist transit for officials and non-officials like. So you can develop a nice package where, you know, the journey to Shillong. From Shillong, there are beautiful places. Not only Shillong and Mawsynram, which are two most popular, but fortunately, in Meghalaya, now the local people, they are setting up a lot of small this, what to say, resorts, small resorts, 10 room, 12 room resorts, and very beautifully located. So I've been to few of these such small resorts, and you get a very peace of nice tranquility, is quiet. In many places, you may not even get a mobile signal, and you feel really rested. This is in Meghalaya. Similar facilities might be there in other states as well. Arunachal is one another state which has a tremendous opportunity to promote tourism, but all depends upon government of Arunachal, how you can really promote, because reaching there is sometimes an issue. So sometimes visitors not get confident, and I would say that you can think about how to make the packages more attractive. So these are my opening lines, and regarding the facilities, and now communication has improved a lot in Assam, in whole of Northeast. Now that 4-lane highways are being laid, are under process. Arunachal has got very good roads, and so also Meghalaya has got very good roads. So there was a communication all along issue, and under government Uran program, now a lot of small airports are going to come all over Northeast, and hopefully within a year or so we'll have short flights taking to all the small destinations. So visitors should be able to reach very conveniently and faster in the coming days. So given a overall scenario, now Assam North is very beautiful. There's summer to be exploited, there's winter to be exploited, there's even the monsoon area to be exploited. It all depends how we develop our tourism package, what we offer, and 4-5 days of packages is enough to fit in. And we should not move away from the Guwahati, Shillong, Kaziranga say, we need to move away to other packages now. So I would just request all the visitors here to think and develop some more interesting tour packages, and there are a lot of opportunities, and Government of India, Government of Assam is laying a lot of emphasis on promotional tourism, because this is one sector which has got tremendous potential of earning revenue for the local people. So, with these words, I will just like to end my speech talk here, and I wish all the best for the remaining proceedings. And over to the host now.
Thank you, Mr. Barua. Thank you for the nice words. So viewers, now I will take you through some slides, some pictures of national parks and wildlife sanctuaries in Northeast India, just an overview. And if anyone has any questions, they can put it in the chat box and we will take it up after this. So first, we will talk about Kaziranga National Park. Kaziranga National Park has already been said that it's a UNESCO Natural World Heritage Site, and it's a natural habitat and biggest population of the one-horned Indian rhinoceros. It's a biosphere reserve, Project Tiger Reserve, and elephant reserve. And the best time to visit the park is from November to April. And the activities that can be done here are elephant safari in the morning, and jeep safari in the morning and afternoon. Then jungle walk in one Panbari reserve, and then village visit near the park, and tea gardens. There are a lot of tea gardens near the park, so tea garden visits are also possible. The big 5 animals of Kaziranga are one-horned rhinoceros, Royal Bengal tiger, Asian elephant, wild water buffalo, and swamp deer. The nearest airport is Jorhat Airport, and but the best connectivity is from Guwahati Airport. Guwahati Airport has many flights, although currently most of them are suspended, but very soon we hope that they'll resume again. So Guwahati Airport is 250 kilometers, and it is accessible, and it takes about 4 or 5 hours to Kaziranga. Next is an elephant safari in Kaziranga. This is a picture of elephant safari in Kaziranga. See how near we can see the animals actually. One of the best sightings in India, it is said, in Kaziranga National Park. Then this is a jeep safari in Kaziranga. You can see the rhino in the middle of the track, and people are taking pictures. And this is a jungle walk or hiking in one of the reserves in the Kaziranga National Park called Panbari Reserve. Some animals of Kaziranga National Park. On top left, you can see the Assam roof turtles, as they are called, because their hood, it resembles the roof of an Assam type house, which is very commonly found in Assam. And then the hornbills, you can see. And now we'll take a look at some of the accommodations in Kaziranga. This is Diflu River Lodge, a very beautiful high-end property. And it's just on the banks of the Diflu River. Very beautiful. Sometimes animals are visible even from this lodge itself. This is inside the lodge. All are individual cottages. And this is Ayora Resort, another one, Ayora the Retreat. This resort has a spa also, Ayurvedic spa. Then this is a new property called Niltava. It's a camp. It's like it's modeled like a tent, but inside it is a luxury property, and it's on a hill which has tea plantations. So the view from this one is very beautiful. You can see the park is even the park is also visible from this property. Then we have Infinity Resort. Infinity, as you know, is a chain. So Infinity Resort also has one property in Kaziranga. Next, we'll take a look at Manas National Park. Manas National Park is also a UNESCO Natural World Heritage Site, Biosphere Reserve, Project Tiger Reserve, and Elephant Reserve. It is located in the Assam-Bhutan border. Actually, a part of the national park is in Bhutan also, where it is known as the Royal Manas National Park. The best time to visit is from November to April. And the activities here are elephant safari, jeep safari, rafting on the Manas River, and village visits to the nearby villages. And how to reach the nearest airport is Guwahati Airport, which is about 140 kilometers, and it takes about 2 to 3 hours to reach Manas from Guwahati. This is a picture of elephant safari in Manas National Park. Then this is the Manas River where rafting is done. The view here is mesmerizing, very beautiful. Then this is Jeep Safari, and you can see guests enjoying village visits near the park. This is a viewpoint inside the Manas National Park. Some animals residing in the Manas National Park. You can see the golden langur here and the bison. And tiger sighting, of course, is based on luck. Then these are some accommodations in Manas. This is Musa Jungle Retreat is a high-end property, and Birina is a mid-range property for families. Then there are Florican cottages, and also a lot of camping opportunities are there on the outskirts of Manas National Park. Then we have Pobitara Wildlife Sanctuary. This is the nearest wildlife sanctuary from Guwahati. It's only 50 kilometers, and it's one can reach from Guwahati in about 1 to 1.5 hours. And Pobitara has the highest density of rhinos in the world. And in the picture, you can see many migratory birds visit the wetlands in Pobitara. Jeep safari is done in Pobitara, you can see, and birds here. Then we have Gibbon Wildlife Sanctuary, as Mr. Tejas had already spoken. This is the park where the only ape found in India, the Hulok gibbons, can be seen. And the distance is just 100 kilometers from Kaziranga National Park. So someone coming to Kaziranga National Park can extend a day or two and visit the Gibbon Wildlife Sanctuary also. Then this is Dibru-Soikhwa National Park, which is in Upper Assam near Dibrugarh. And this national park is great for bird watchers. Thousands of migratory birds, very rare species of birds, they visit every winter. And some local birds, a lot of local birds also here, which are like endangered and endemic to this place. Another very interesting aspect of Dibru-Soikhwa National Park is the feral horses, as we call it, feral horses. These were actually horses that were left by the British. When they left India, these horses, they were left in the national park, and over the time period, they became wild. So seeing horses in the wild, I think this is the only place where you can see horses in the wild. Then there is Nameri National Park in Assam. Nameri is just 90 kilometers from Kaziranga. It takes about 2 hours from Kaziranga, and it is a great place for rafting. Mainly 2 activities are done here, rafting and trekking in the jungle. You can see people trekking in the lower picture. You can see people trekking inside the jungle. And this is a picture of a camp, Nameri Eco Camp. It is on the outskirts of the national park, and it's a very nice place where you get a feeling of eco adventure. Then we have Namdapha National Park in Arunachal Pradesh. Extremely beautiful views of the eastern Himalayas, as you can see. Snow-clad peaks also can be viewed here. And it's a great place for birding. A lot of bird watchers visit this place. And it's accessible from Dibrugarh Airport. It takes about 4 to 5 hours from Dibrugarh to Namdapha. Then we have the Dibang Valley and Michimi Hills in Arunachal Pradesh. And it's also a part of eastern Arunachal, eastern Himalayas. And this part is great for people who like seeing butterflies and birds. Hundreds of species of butterflies are found in these areas. Then we have Pakki Tiger Reserve in Arunachal Pradesh. Apart from being a tiger reserve, the 2 most interesting things that are found here are these 2 different types of hornbills, the rufous hornbill, and the wreathed hornbill. Then we have Eagle Nest Wildlife Sanctuary, which has become very popular in the recent time because of the conservation efforts that are being done here. And it's a great place for bird watching and butterflies. Then this is Cable Lamjao National Park in Manipur. This is another very interesting, I think, on one of a kind national park, because you can see here, these are the floating reed islands of the Loktak Lake in Manipur. And this national park is a part of the Loktak Lake only, on the periphery of the Loktak Lake. So a part of the national park is floating on the lake, as you can see. And this national park is famous for the Sangai deer. Sangai deer is also known as the dancing deer because of the pretty jumps that it makes. It's known as the dancing deer. And this park is very near to the capital Imphal. It takes just about, I think, 2 hours drive from Imphal, and people can visit. And also there are some resorts near the lake where people can stay. Just on the bank of the lake, Loktak Lake, people can stay. Then this is Sipahi Jala Wildlife Sanctuary in Tripura, which is famous for the spectacled langur. As you can see, the langur, it looks like it's wearing a chashma or a spectacle, and also some wild cats, the leopard cat. And lastly, the place where people can visit, because all the national parks, they close down during summer. So people who are visiting during the summer months, on summer vacation and all, they can go to the Assam State Zoo. Assam State Zoo has because it is the only zoo in India, I think, which is actually built on a real reserve forest, in the Hengrabari Reserve Forest. So it has a very natural surrounding, very beautiful zoo, unlike any other zoo in India. This is you can see rhino at the zoo, and some pelicans at the zoo. So these were some of the national parks and wildlife sanctuaries in Northeast India. Now, I request, if anyone has any questions, we'll be taking up the questions now. A lot of questions are coming in, so I'll be taking the questions. But before that, I want to ask one question to Mr. Tejas, to speak about the Assam State Zoo a little bit more, because it's a place that it has a lot of potential, and we can promote it as a summer destination, because a lot of people nowadays come to Northeast India during the summer vacation, and they go to Meghalaya and all. But in Guwahati also, like, they can visit the Assam State Zoo and see the animals. So I'll request you to kindly speak about it. You have to unmute.
Yeah, I'm audible?
Yes.
Yeah. So, Assam State Zoo is a naturalistic zoo. It spans across an area of 175 hectare. So, out of which, where we have kept the captive animals is hardly in less than 30 hectares. So another 145 hectare is pure virgin forest. So it's a beautiful forest made up of 3 hills. In fact, one of the hill is almost 240 meter from sea level. So it's at a pretty good height where we can get a beautiful sight of the entire city. So Assam State Zoo, apart from traditional zoo tourism, it is now trying to diversify into more specialized and then adventure based tourism also, because the landscape gives such an opportunity. Specialized, basically, we are now this winter season, we are now planning for harp walk, like for those interested in reptiles and other microfauna. And then we are planning for birding. We are also planning for a nature healing walk in the morning time. So that is more on specialized tourism. But also adventure tourism based, we already have started trekking in Assam State Zoo. It's a beautiful trek of around 5.5 to 6 kilometers. And it's a medium level trek, not very easy, not very difficult, but then people will enjoy it. On the way up, they can see in Saraigat Bridge, Umananda Temple, Brahmaputra River, the entire city of Guwahati. So it gives a beautiful viewpoint. And soon we will be starting camping there. And then as we speak here, there is a DPR going on for a ziplining activity for which spans across the length of 1.5 kilometers. So DPR is being planned. So if this comes out, this probably Assam Zoo will probably be one of the most sought after tourist destination if the ziplining comes out actually in real. As such, the planning is already on. We are in it. So I would, in fact, promote. I would also request all the tourism associate people, all the tourist agents to promote. They can get the people to Assam State Zoo, where apart from traditional zoo tourism, they can also promote for trekking. I think people will really love this trek because we have. I mean, in fact, I invite all the tourist agents to actually come and see the trek. So I think by words I will not be able to justify the actual beauty of the trek. I think if one can actually see the trek, I would invite whenever they want to come, they can contact me. They can take my number, they can email me. We'll organize a trek for you. So once you all actually see the area, so I think you will realize the kind of thing the tourists are actually missing. People stay in Guwahati, and I'm sure like they'll be thinking on where exactly to go in Guwahati, but this probably is something which people miss. So I think Assam State Zoo is the answer for those people who are staying in Guwahati. Thank you. Anything else like somebody else wants to know more?
Thank you. Thank you. Very, very positive developments to look forward to. Thank you, Mr. Tejas. Yes, my next question is for Mr. Akashdeep Barua. We all know about Kaziranga National Park, but it is one of the best conservation success stories in India. So can you just let us know how it was achieved? Sir, please unmute. Yeah.
So I couldn't get you clearly, but I believe you wanted to know the reasons behind the success of rhino conservation in Kaziranga. Yes. Was it a question? Okay.
Yes.
Essentially, the story of rhino conservation began with the declaration of the Kaziranga National Park first, 1974, and protection of the habitat. And why was a rhino population was due in the first place? Because they were being hunted. Poaching was the main reason why rhino population was coming down. And if you go back to history, you will see that the rhino was once upon a time, it was roaming the entire foothill of Himalayas, say from present Punjab to the eastern Burma. But these animals were being looked upon as a pest because they were raiding those agricultural fields, and they have been actually hunted. In Assam, there are records that the government was actually paying people for actually hunting and killing rhinos. They've been paid. But then way back when Lord Curzon and his wife, Madam Curzon, visited Assam, because she had heard about this animal called rhino. And in the West, there is this fascination about this animal, the mythical animal called unicornis. So she heard a similar animal with a single horn in Northeast. She actually wanted to visit that Assam and wanted to see the animal firsthand. And being the Governor General's wife, so all arrangements were made. She came to a place near the present Jorhat, where she stayed there. But unfortunately, she couldn't see any rhinos at that point of time. And the person who was accompanying her was a local person who was once upon a time a hunter himself, who became an animal tracker. And then he told her that, ma'am, you are not able to see animals because these rhinos are being hunted, they are being poached. So kindly do something to protect this animal. So when she went back to Calcutta and met her husband, she said that this is a solid state of affairs. You must do something to protect this animal. So it was Lord Curzon who actually initiated certain efforts in the field to bring conservation. They stopped hunting through a royal proclamation, and in course of time, this effort for conservation picked up. We lot of reserve forests were declared. Finally, Kaziranga National Park was created in 74 with an area of 400 odd hectares. The area got protected, and since 74 and 80s is basically, I would say, the effort of the local officers, the field staff there who have been patrolling this area day in, day out, give protection against poaching, which has led to the increase in the rhino population. Now, one good thing about rhino is that, you know, it's a very good breeder. I would say very prolific in terms of its own. It does give birth only to one calf, but it does a regular interval of 4 to 5 years. So if it just gets protection, if it just gets food and water, it will breed. And because of these things, you know, the animal has, you know, really prolifered. In the last 5-6 years, of course, our major concern was, of course, poaching. But then also in the last 5 years, you may have noticed that the number of poaching has come down. This is because of a large number, many factors. I think most important thing that am I being, because my internet connection seems unstable. Am I audible?
Yes, yes, you're audible.
Yeah.
Perfectly. Yes.
So what has happened with coming to a new government? A very good thing has happened that there is increased synergy between the police department, the civil administration, and the forest department, whereby we could keep a better check on the poachers. We could track the movements, and we have nabbed them quite a few. So all these things had actually contributed to this further success in bringing down the poaching and hunting of the rhino. But the thing is that we are actually maybe losing more rhinos because of loss of habitat. Because eventually we may lose 1 or 2 rhinos to poaching, but you may be losing 10 rhinos to loss of habitat. So now the Kaziranga authorities, they're trying to increase the habitat area from 424 odd square kilometers, where back in 1974, it is now, I think, around 884. Now there will be another addition of 30 square kilometers, which I came to know today. So we now need to increase the habitat, protect it, and develop it as a potential rhino habitat, so that the numbers of rhino will increase. So all these things, the history, the conservation, the anti-poaching efforts, and then now the increase of the habitat area, all this is contributing to the rise of or increase of the rhino population. And rhinos are very densely populated now in Kaziranga, very, very densely populated. Over to Madhusmita.
Thank you. Thank you very much. There was one question from Mr. Rajiv about the number of gates in Kaziranga. I think there are 4 and distance from the resorts. So I think there are four entry points in Kaziranga, right? 4 ranges.
There are 4 entry points, yes. But I would like to add here, unfortunately, what's happening, though there are 4 entry points, only 2 entry points are being mostly preferred by the visitors. The reason being, most of the lodges and hotels are located near these 2 entry points. One is the Kohora, other one is Bagori. And of course, sighting is good in these 2 areas also. But there are other 2 points. One is Ogaratoli, which is the easternmost part. Another one is Burapar, westernmost part. Now, these 2 areas have got its own charm. And I always, when I was the director of Kaziranga, I would always suggest to my visitors that instead of going to Kohora and Bagori, which is overcrowded, one should try visiting the Ogaratoli, easternmost part, because it has got a much wider variety of wildlife. Other than the animals, you get to see a large number of water birds. The vegetation is much more green, but then it all depends. Yes, there are 4 entry points.
Yes, Ogaratoli is definitely lovely for birding. We've also visit there most of the time. Very, very nice place for birding.
Sorry, Madhusmita, I have one video.
Yes.
If I can share, it's a drone video of the Kaziranga. I can try it on the screen share. I hope it runs.
Yes, please.
So you can.
Is it running?
Yes, yes, it is.
I hope the picture is clear.
Yeah, but it's coming a bit slow. There is a button called optimize. You
Okay.
can stop the share. You can stop the share and then do the optimize part. Just do the stop screen share.
Stop share, yes.
Then again share again and do the optimize. There's a button called optimize down there.
The optimize is not actually saying active.
Just click on the share screen part on the button share screen.
Yes, share, yes.
And then down there are two buttons called one is called optimized video. Can you see it? It's okay. Just play it. It's okay.
Okay. I'm sorry because of the poor feed.
It's okay. Just play it. Yeah.
Okay, okay. I'll line it. Sorry. The view of the woodland, the rivers, and far end you can see those grasslands also. Can I speak as I show the video? Can I talk?
So you can talk also.
Yeah. Why I'm showing this video is that this is what the kind of flybys videos which I've seen elsewhere. It really flies over the area, and you really know how the area looks like. You know, in the variety, because when you're on the land, you only visit a part of the park or the sanctuary. You don't see anything beyond that. These are areas which can be shown, no, in the fly video, so that visitors get a much richer experience of visiting that area.
It is looking like the Amazon rainforest.
Exactly.
Yes.
It looks so beautiful from the sky, and the video is poor. Plus, it was a very ordinary camera in the drone. If you use a nice camera, and people really need to appreciate. I just fast forward it. It's just similar this thing only. You can see us down there. We are taking those videos. You know, the drone can come down almost to the street level.
That's the safari in progress, right? The Jeep safari in progress.
No. It's not safari. It was one of my visit to the district, one of the areas. These are out of bounds for visitors. That's what I'm trying to say. There's out of bound visitors. So some area can be shown to visitors through this kind of flyby videos.
This must be the central range, right?
Is that, yeah. Okay, so that's about it. I bet there are other videos also. I thought I'll just show you one to get an idea like how is it. Yeah, over to Madhusmita.
Yes. There was another question about if there is any book on all the national parks or any write up on all the national parks and wildlife sanctuaries in Northeast.
There are books. This is one book. Departmental, this thing, the publication, which gives the information about all the sanctuaries in the state. And there is also an Assam forest at a glance. But then I still feel that we need to bring out more number of such publications, and it needs to update it also.
Get the name of the book.
Okay, is it visible? And the name of the book is Exquisite Wildlife of Assam. It's Department of Environment Forest publication. Now the issue is that because it's a government publication, it is a restricted circulation. I don't think it's still on the bookshelf for people to buy. But then if you feel so, we can think of developing one compilation similar book for the visitors to purchase. We can take it up with the. We really just need.
I think that is a great idea. We can come up with a book. Yes, people just like to buy.
Yes, only that if the Department of Tourism can give us a modest funding, then we can publish. Print these books in big numbers.
Okay, so if there is any other questions, please put up in the chat box because we are coming to the end, towards the end of the program. One question was there if wildlife tours are safe for solo women travelers. I think it's perfectly safe to travel in Northeast India.
Northeast women are relatively much safer. That much I can tell you.
Question about guest houses available, and most of, as I have already shared some information about accommodations in the major national parks and wildlife sanctuaries have all decent accommodations, so people can easily stay. Also, there are in Kaziranga there are some government guest houses, also private resorts. I've already shared the information about.
Yes.
And there is a question: what is the possibility of spotting tiger, snow leopard, clouded leopard, and leopard in Namdapha National Park? Namdapha National Park sighting of tigers and leopards is not that easy. It's more popular for birding right now. A lot of birders come to Namdapha.
If I may just interject, Namdapha, the problem Namdapha is that I think when I last visited, the first big problem was of accommodation. And I do not know whether more accommodation facilities come up. And second is the problem road, communication also. You just go Namdapha, you end up in a forest guest house there, and beyond it you cannot travel. That was about maybe 6-7 years back. Maybe things have improved there, so we need to find out. And secondly, regarding the government accommodations in the wildlife areas, I would rather urge that not to go for these accommodations. For the main reason is that, as I told you, our tourist season is a very narrow 3-4 months, and lot of these government officials and other VVIPs, they keep visiting from other parts of the state. So as a park director also, I had often faced this very embarrassing situation that I commit a room in my guest house, and there's some last minute request for VVIP to accommodate, and I have to request them to move out. Another problem is that because this is a rush season, if you don't have confirmed accommodation and you book yourself a government guest house, it may so happen that you may not have a alternate private accommodation suddenly at a short notice. So my request would be that as far as possible, visitors should try to make accommodation in private lodges or guest houses so that their reservation is confirmed.
Thank you. My next question is to Mr. Tejas. It is said that Guwahati Zoo can actually be compared to the Singapore Zoo. It's so beautiful. So can you please tell us about the main highlights of the zoo, the main highlights which people can expect to see there?
Yeah, landscape wise, yes, I think landscape wise we are very beautiful, but when infrastructure wise we need a lot more improvement. We are far behind. So it would not be right now to compare Singapore Zoo, but Assam Zoo gives a different opportunity. Singapore Zoo is basically a zoo. In this, apart from traditional zoo activities, it gives a variety of scope for other activities too. And then the zoo is based in a naturalistic landscape. We are now coming up with some of the good enclosures, like the walk-in aviary is already ready once the lockdown, once the zoo opens after Corona issue. So there will be a walk-in aviary will be a big highlight for the visitors. Secondly, we are also coming up with an African savanna habitat where giraffe, zebra, ostrich, they will be housed together, just like how in it's like a mini savanna grassland. Replicating the savanna grassland. It's an enclosure based on that concept. So these are the two things which are coming up now. So we are also working out on new enclosures, futuristic enclosures. Of course, once we are ready with all the good enclosures, then with the naturalistic landscape, we can be the best zoo. But then, I mean, it would not be right to right now compare it to Singapore Zoo. But of course, I've also in the chat box, I've shared two images, one of the zoo trek and the view from the hilltop, and second of the zoo camping on the hilltop. So that would be for everyone's information. So these are the two opportunities which are already there apart from traditional zoo tourism. So these are not traditional, unconventional tourism in the zoo area. So these are something which everybody who's visiting Guwahati will be interested. I think this can fill in the vacuum which exists in Guwahati.
Yes. Right, true. So thank you everyone for joining us in this session today. So with this, we come to the end of today's program.
I think sir want to speak. I guess he is raising his hand. So.
Who? Sorry.
Sir wanted to speak. I guess.
Yes. Yes, I didn't see sir. Yes, sir. Please. Sir, please unmute, sir.
Yes. Am I audible now?
Yes, sir.
Achha. Really very interesting topic today we discussed. But I just want to know from Tejas ji, and in India, do we have, I don't think that Northeast nowhere it has been done, that glass type of zoo instead of the barbed wire, or do we have in our country virtual zoo?
Sir, virtual zoo does exist. Basically, they live stream the activities inside an enclosure online. I think Chennai Zoo has already done it very successfully. They are doing it very well. Also, I think Kolkata Zoo also has it. But Chennai Zoo, I'm very sure they are doing it extremely well. It's very nice. Right now, sir, we are the glass enclosure. What you're saying, sir, we are planning it for leopard, and also we are also planning for a good aqua space where we can replicate wetland habitat in a miniature way. So these things are online. It's like they are in process. So I think we will take some years to actually get everything through. But I'm sure once it is through, probably there will be once all these things are successfully through, there will be no match to Guwahati Zoo.
Okay. Okay. So how long it may take time? Because the old conception of Jew is no more now.
Yes. It's a most of the structures are very old, so probably around before 1980s. So right now, walk-in aviary for the Indian birds are already ready, and African savanna grassland, which is where we'll keep giraffe and zebra together. That is that is undergoing under construction. So probably by October by the October end we should be ready with that. And zebra are also coming from Mysore. So by January we will house the animals also together. And aquaspace and other things, sir, it will take probably they're still in the planning phase, so probably a couple of years, sir.
Great. I think that this kind of things will certainly boost the tourism in the region.
Definitely, sir. In fact, Assam Zoo has the potential to be the tourism booster for Guwahati. I think people will have this on their itinerary once everything is ready. Assam Zoo will be one of the major itinerary in there once these things are plus, including this camping and trekking thing, which is going to come up now. Camping especially, I think a lot of people are going to like it, sir.
So I think that Tejas ji and your company will be the instrumental for making the history.
Sure, sir. We will definitely. Yes, sir. So in fact, I invite everybody to all of you to in fact plan for a trek in the Assam Zoo anytime. I mean, I think Madhusmita can organize if possible on a particular day. We would love to take all of you on a trekking trail and also camping on a smaller group. We limit to 10 people currently for camping. So on a smaller groups, we can once you people actually experience what exactly it is, I think then the real boost will start.
Absolutely, very good.
Yes, we can do that. I think in some time we can actually organize something like that. Thank you very much for the offer. We'll definitely work on it. Thank you.
Can I ask one thing?
Yeah, sure.
Tejas, so can we promote this as a family destination because encountering these animals, kids would be more fascinated about encountering animals face to face. So is it this camping and all, is it very feasible with the family travel or?
Definitely, I think because it's not a very difficult trek. It's a medium. It's less than. It's not very difficult. We have taken kids also along the trek just to just to see how they enjoy. In fact, kids actually enjoy more than they really loved it. So it was amazing. So I think it can be a family destination as well. They can because if someone is not comfortable, we can easily get them down even at any point in the night. So that should not be a problem.
I just want to supplement one thing. I participating in the webinar, I got the impressions like the few respected women are still having a kind of misconception about this region. Often on the questions are being asked that whether women are safe in the Northeast, women tourists are safe in the Northeast or not. I mean, first of all, the local people here, they never had any kind of biasness or patriarchal type of mentality towards women. The society in Northeast is completely different from the mainland India. Women are very much respected and revered. So one will have to get rid of this kind of mindset.
Yes, thank you very much, sir. Now I request Mr. D.K. Mandal of India Tourism Guwahati office to please give the vote of thanks.
He is an expert of giving the vote of thanks.
Hello. 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 Hello.
Yes, we can hear you.
I'm Mr. D.K. Mandal. It is my opportunity and pleasure to give vote of thanks. First of all, I must.
अरे उनका साथ तो हमेशा कुछ न कुछ प्रॉब्लम होता ही है वैसे.
Regional Director C.S. Darbaman for his valuable suggestions. Thanks also the Speaker Akashdeep Boro and Tejas for giving their valuable information about the wildlife. And lastly, I must thank Mudusmita, Found and Safari Plus. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mandal. So we'll come back again next week, Friday at 4 p.m. with a new topic. Thank you all for attending this webinar. Thank you very much.
Mudusmita,
Yes, sir.
I think that we'll have to make one webinar on women tourists in Northeast.
Yes.
That would be a good topic,
That
sir.
would be very nice.
Really, I think that this will have to be done, and I think that it will send a positive message to nooks and corner of the country.
True, very true, sir.
Mm.
True.
And thank you
Let's
so
do
much,
it.
Mr. Akash and Mr. Tejas. It was really enlightening, knowing such places and to promote these destinations would be definitely a good thing that, the more domestic tourism can go to these Northeast destinations as well. Thank you so much.
मैडम आपने कभी आई नॉर्थ ईस्ट में?
जी सर.
आपने आई कभी?
सर सिर्फ असम.
This thing should be done for you. ठीक है मैडम?
Thank you, sir.
We'll do arrangement for you everything.
Yes. Thank you so much. Thank you. Have a good day.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you to all.